Becoming Miss America at 19 sounds like a dream. And in a lot of ways, it is. But what no one really talks about is what it costs to become that visible before you've had the space to actually figure out who you are. In this episode, I'm sitting down with Kirsten Haglund, and this conversation is not what you think it's going to be. Because behind the title, behind the stage, the version of success everyone celebrates, there's pressure, performance, and that level of exposure can shape you before you're ready for it. And as I was listening to her, I kept thinking, what happens when we grow in environments that push us, but don't always hold us? This is part one of our conversation, and it sets up a part two that takes us even deeper in a way that really matters right now.
I think I first want to ask you if you remember meeting me in New York.
No, but I went to text you before our recording today. I had your contact saved in my phone already with your name and notes. And I rarely put notes in my phone for people, but I put notes in that I met you and that you were a daughter of one of the board members of Finding Balance. And I put Hillsong in there. I put details about us in your
Oh my
contact on my phone. So it clearly was important to me too. But I think there was so much going on at that time and phase in my life as well. And obviously it's New York City. You meet so many people, not that, individuals are not special and that encounter was unique, but a lot's happened since then.
I know. Well, I have so many questions for you, but to prove a point that I always share with people, even if that conversation didn't stick out in your head, for it to stick out in my head for all of this time, sometimes we don't even know how we're impacting people. A lot of times we don't even get to see the fruit of that. We don't get to hear a message that says like, you changed my life,
Absolutely. I've had the same thing over the course of my life with women who've shaped me, who made a huge impact on my life, just brief conversations, and they'll maybe never know how they changed my life, and they probably never remember me either. So I think it's just a part of the sisterhood, women supporting other women, that whatever wisdom that we feel like we receive, we pass it on to others, and we never know when that seed planted actually grows into something quite fruitful.
Yes, I love that. The message that you told me, which I'll share, I have used that in my therapy with teen girls so many times. Like,
Amazing.
I was a baby. I was like 18, 19 years old. This is just me like projecting. You were probably like, oh man, like here, everyone always wants a piece of me. I got to like meet with this young girl. And we talked, and I remember thinking you were so cool and what a role model. At that time, I was dealing with some body image issues because my body had kind of changed and it was unexpected. And I was like, I have like stretch marks now. Like I've never had stretch marks. And you were like, I have stretch marks. And I was like, stretch marks? Women have stretch marks. Okay. That made me feel okay about having stretch marks.
I'm a normal woman, just like you.
I was telling you all the things I wanted to do, my plans. I was like, I want to be an actress. I want to do this and that and the other. And you were like, that's so cool. But I just encourage you to hold your plans with an open hand. If you hold them so tightly, other things can't come in. And sometimes you crush the goals or the passions that you have by holding it too tightly. But if you hold it open, things can come in, things can go out, yada, yada, yada. Then like 2 weeks later, I swear I went home and met my husband and then accidentally moved back home, my master's and social work. And the seed you planted of don't hold your plans too rigidly really allowed me to be okay with shifting. So it was really special.
So happy for you. Thank you for sharing that with me too, because we never know what hits or what sticks with people. And it's probably something that was passed along to me or something that I had learned from my own experience.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for you. And it seems like you're doing so well now and really doing something you're passionate about. And that's the most important thing. And so I'm really glad for you.
Thank you for taking the time. Gosh, I think 13 or so years ago to meet with me and responding to my DM when I was like, by the way, you changed my life. Any chance you want to be on my podcast? And you were like, yes, absolutely. I know you've had so much happen in your life, and it's hard to like narrow in on like, how do you summarize yourself with such a full life?
I'm currently in Zurich, Switzerland, actually. I moved 8 years ago now. I am a fitness coach. I teach barre, B-A-R-R-E, ballet bar. I teach a strength training class and indoor cycling at a studio here in Zurich. And I'm also working part-time in research at the University of Zurich on a couple different projects, which I know we'll discuss, but primarily looking at the intersection of youth, mental health and well-being, and digital technologies. I just finished my master's program, and I also part-time manage the studio as well. So I'm a part of our marketing and communications, the head of the RIDE program. So I kind of lead the vision for our RIDE program and help develop our coaching staff. I had a big career shift about 8 years ago. I was actually looking to get out of the industry. I was working in journalism and television news and radio, and I was finding it to be quite soul sucking. I kind of looked at the long-term trajectory of my life in that industry and realizing that I didn't want to be doing that in 20 years. So why was I still doing it? What I'm doing right now is the most aligned I've ever felt personally with doing a profession that doesn't feel like a job. It's my passion.
Yes, I understand that.
It not only aligns with my values as a person and what I want to contribute to the world, but also my gifts. And it pulls together things that I've done throughout my professional career and my education throughout my entire life. I'm using all of those skills now. I mean, from my ballet training, musical theater experience, my professional speaking experience, presenting in front of people, my mental health advocacy, and bringing in all of those pieces of holistic health and well-being to the classes that I teach, to interacting with clients. Everything has come together. So I can't summarize me very easily because all of the things that have happened to be in my life have been quite diverse and
Yes.
have led me down a lot of different paths. But I have to say where I am now is the most delighted and most aligned that I've ever felt. And yes, I was Miss America, but I was also a ballet dancer. I was a musical theater performer. I was a public speaker. I was a talking head on TV, but now I'm the happiest I've ever been.
Oh, I love that because working with teen girls, I feel like they're at this point where they feel like they have to have everything figured out at 17, 18 years old. I kind of went through a similar journey of, again, I held my plans so tightly, but like all of high school was like 4.0, accepted directly into the University of Michigan's nursing program, which to me was like, wow. Then I just decided not to do that, moved to New York, dropped out of college, just did all these other things, right? Somehow found my way back to getting my master's. But I feel like I couldn't have gotten there if I hadn't taken these detours and trusted my gut. And I will say that, like, my gut drove me so strongly. Similarly, I feel so aligned. Like, I don't think I ever work. I have a career that I'm super passionate about. I try and incorporate my story of, like, have a direction. And this is probably partly because of what you told me, which is just so like mind-blowing to me, how everything can stem back to some small conversation, but like be open to what life might bring you. Have a direction, have a plan, but also who knows? The doors will just open. And
One thing that I've learned in my life is that nothing works out the way you planned.
yeah.
And that's actually great because in going down all those paths, you learn new things about yourself. You learn what you like, what you don't like. You discover new gifts that you have that you
Mhm.
probably would not have known otherwise. You meet new people, or perhaps you go down that path and it puts you in the place you need to be to make the next turn.
Yes.
And you had to go there. And so maybe it's not your calling per se or the thing you're going to be doing 20 or 30 years from now, but it leads you to the next place you need to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's good. I'm glad you're back in Michigan too. It's nice. I love
Yeah.
Michigan.
Do you still do you come back regularly? Because you were Miss Michigan first.
I was, and I do have family there, and I try to make it back mostly around holidays and visit my family. And every time I come back, I say, it was a great place to be raised. When I say over here that I'm from Michigan, some people know, but it's not the number one tourist destination for Europeans, I have to say. But I'm very proud and I love to come back, especially during the summer. Michigan summers are fantastic. The beaches are amazing.
Yes, I joke that like what we are to Chicago is like the Hamptons to New York, but just like not as intense.
And not as expensive, which makes it way better.
I feel like I can't not ask you about being Miss America. You were Miss America at 19 years old. And because I talk with a lot of girls that are in high pressure industries, I think it would be really interesting to start there. Also, I did see you on the documentary that came out recently about Miss America. So part of me is wondering, like, how do you feel about this experience on a very small stage? We have this thing in our area that's called Miss Blossom Time. All of this towns or whatever go out. And so I won Miss St. unexpectedly. And then well, not unexpectedly, but I just kind of like went out, had no pageant experience. And then I went out for the Miss Blossom time, which is when all the towns come together and they won Miss Blossom time. It was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
okay, it's not Miss America, but I was Miss Blossom time. And so I think
Very
there's always
special.
a part of me that I have mixed feelings about what that experience is like for me. I kind of want to hear about your experience.
Hmm. Um, I never set out to win a pageant. I've actually never been a very competitive person. And that's an extremely competitive environment. There are people who do pageants very seriously. They devote so much of their time and life and resources to
Mm-hmm.
that goal. And I did not pursue it as such. I entered my local competition when I was 17, graduating high school, because I was looking to earn some scholarship to attend the University of Cincinnati's College Conservatory of Music, CCM, where I was attending for musical theater.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just decided to compete. I wore my senior prom dress as my evening gown. And
Amazing.
I sang a song that I'd been working with my voice teacher on, an aria from Die Fledermaus, the opera. And my mom and I went and bought a costume at the Salvation Army, like an old 80s ball gown to make it look like an opera dress. Just kind of threw something together. And being on stage was very easy for me because I've been performing all my life as a ballet dancer and in choir and theater. It wasn't a lot of hard work for me to just do it and hopefully win a couple $100.
Yeah.
And I was so young and naive at that point. I thought a couple $100 would help me pay for college, which is hilarious. But I thought it was an easy thing to do besides writing another scholarship essay, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
But then I won that, and then I had to go compete at Miss Michigan, and I won Miss Michigan. This was completely unexpected because then I was competing with girls who went back every year, very serious about it. And I
Yes.
won, and I was 18. And then 6 months later, I was on stage at Miss America. And that year, also prior to the competition, we filmed a reality show. So I was living in LA for a month with all the other contestants. So was like, okay, I'm on this ride. We'll see how it goes. I never had any expectation of actually winning.
Wow.
Thankfully, by the end, it did pay for my undergraduate degree because by the time I won Miss America, I had almost $100,000 in scholarship.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
Yes, so I graduated debt free, which I'm very thankful for. Then my reaction upon winning, I was so overwhelmed, and then I was kind of just acting like I knew I should act when you win
Mm-hmm.
because I just had no idea what to do, how to act, how to be.
Yeah.
And it was at the beginning just very much another performance for me. Okay, I act like the pageant girl who won Miss America. It provided me with so many incredible opportunities to travel and speak, to develop my leadership skills and like adulting skills, being in a room with people 10, 20, 30, 40 years older than me, being a spokesperson for an organization,
Yeah.
developing speeches about the importance of mental health awareness, sharing my own story of recovery from an eating disorder. I mean, it built so many skills in me that today I'm very grateful for. You travel the whole year. You go from city to city. You don't go home ever. You live out of a suitcase. You do some amazing things. Like I met 2 presidents, 3
Wow.
actually, and I was at the inauguration of Barack Obama. I walked red carpets. And then the next day you're sitting in a Walmart in rural Alabama signing autographs to people who tell you that you don't look like Miss America and you shouldn't have cut your hair. And I mean, just
Hmm.
the diversity of experiences is so vast
Yes.
that it's always a bit difficult. And the pressure when people meet you, they're so excited.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're meeting you, Dylan, or you, Kirsten. They're meeting the title Miss America, similar to like they're meeting the president.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to make that experience special for them because it's probably the only time that they're going to meet a Miss America. So you have to
Yeah.
make sure that they feel seen and heard and valued, that it's special for them. The emotional valence of every interaction has to be high, special, worthy, unique, and you are the one providing that. So it's a tremendous amount of pressure. Obviously, I didn't do it perfectly. I tried my best. And then at the end of the day, you go back to the hotel room and you're alone. You experience these amazing once in a lifetime opportunities, being at an award show, meeting celebrities you've always admired, doing incredible things like speaking for Congress. And then you go home and you have no one to celebrate it with. You're in a hotel room by yourself. You brush your teeth, you put your hair up, You watch a show and go to bed. I mean, you're like, okay, and I just met the president and good night, everyone. And then
Yeah.
similarly, when you're going through the most difficult or most lonely, or you really flubbed a speech, or, some man put their hand on your back the wrong way in a photo shoot, and you feel violated. And then you also just go back and you're by yourself and you have no support. Not easy, but I'm very thankful now. And I'm healed. I'm healed from it.
I don't even know how to, that's, yeah. I don't even know how to respond to that because it just sounds so intense, and to be so young at 19 navigating all of this. You know what it made me think of? Taylor Swift. I watched her documentary and she did like a behind the eras tour or whatever. And what you were describing about the pressure that she puts on herself, people spent all of their money to come to this show. Like, doesn't matter if you're sick, heartbroken, exhausted, you have to perform for these people. And it comes out of this place of love. You want people to see, be seen, heard, validated is so beautiful, but at the cost of what?
Thank goodness Miss America is only for a year. I mean, it's a long year. That's why I have so much compassion for celebrities. I see why they have breakdowns and why they retreat from public life and why they go through what they do. Our public discourse about celebrities is so intense and can be so negative, and people are so critical and judgmental of these people. I'm like, because I was in that kind of position for only a year, thank God, I have so much more empathy, and I don't know how they do it. It's insane. I'm very glad to have done it, but I'm also very glad now to be living a more private life. I mean, obviously everyone's a bit public if they're on social media, but
Yeah.
I'm very thankful. It set me up to really want to do something with my life that is mine and has nothing to do with having been Miss America. And that's why I'm
Mhm.
really thankful for the life that I'm living now. Everything that I'm doing now is based on my own hard work. Kirsten,
Mhm. Yeah.
very few people over here know anything about my past public life or having been Miss America. And all the things that I have achieved and am achieving now are due to my own skills and qualifications that come from me as a person, regardless
Yeah.
of my past. And that is tremendously fulfilling.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. Do you still stay connected to people who are former Miss Americas?
I do. I have friends that are former Miss Americas, and we stay in touch via social media and some through closer contact. For several years after I won, I went back to the competition every year to see people.
Mhm.
Obviously, I still know a lot of volunteers who are involved in the organization, but I haven't been back to the competition in many years. Even though I know there's still a lot of girls who compete in it and get a lot of value from it, my views on the value of the program have changed quite a bit over the last years. And also don't know how welcome I would be sometimes.
Really?
Um, well,
You've
because
been a whistleblower.
I've been quite outspoken that I think, for example, that the swimsuit competition is really harmful and unnecessary. I'm not the only former Miss America who has also been outspoken about how difficult that year is and how harmful it can be. I'm not alone in that, and that makes me feel good. But
Yeah.
there are still a lot of volunteers who think that Miss America is the greatest thing ever, and how could you ever criticize it? And sometimes I wonder, oh, they might hate me. I hope not, because I have nothing against them. It's just that I think that there are probably better ways for young women to develop
Yeah.
qualities of public speaking, presentation, learning how to be able to walk into a room and introduce yourself, show confidence,
Mhm.
develop a platform issue that they care about. I think there are other ways to do that besides also putting them on stage in high heels and makeup and all of that.
Yeah. No, I feel very similar. I still connected to the people that volunteer at the pageant in our area. And I've actually reached out to them and been like, hey, these are some of the things that were hard for me during that time. And I feel like with my experience and now knowledge of teen development, I'm like, I think we could make it better. I think we could make improvements to it.
Yeah.
So far, they've been receptive and starting the conversation about it. So I'm really hopeful that there can be some positive movement into something that's maybe a little bit more, I don't know, not holistic, but just like looking at a woman for all of her, not what she looks like. I told you that Nina graduated from St. Joe High School. She was older than I was, so I didn't get a chance to know her. But I'll tell you what, she has a big old sign in our high school because obviously everyone is so
Yeah.
proud. But she has a new book coming out, Killing Miss America.
Yes, she
I
also is quite outspoken about Miss America. So like I said, I'm not the only one who has
Yes.
issues.
Yes.
with
So
it.
she has been really confident in in speaking about that, and against a whole organization is a hard.
So much respect for my Miss America sisters. We are kind of all on the same page when it comes to our mixed feelings about our experiences, but they're all doing amazing things, and each one of us has gone down such a different path. And that's cool and amazing. And they're some of the most incredible women.
Anyone who wins that competition is a standout person for so many different reasons. All super intelligent too. Oh my goodness. Let's get into what we really want to get into, which is the master's research that you've been doing. And I looked all over it and I was like, dang, this is extremely impressive. I want to learn from you and all the stuff that you're doing on the ground with this research.
I always wanted to do a master's program, and I started quite late. I did my bachelor's in political science at Emory University in Atlanta and finished when I was 22 years old, and then started my master's at 34. So I, it was kind of a later decision, but I had always wanted to do it. And I kind of had to find programs that were in English, even though I do speak German now that I've lived here 8 years, but wanted to do something in English. I've always wanted to do things that are relevant, even though in my heart, if I could just study for the rest of my life, I would probably study history or philosophy or art history, as a lot of people would say, like not useful, even though I think they're very useful, but something
Yes.
more current.
My husband majored in philosophy.
Go down YouTube rabbit holes about like philosophy and history and stuff. I'm a nerd at heart. I chose the program that I've been in is called Internet and Society. It's in the Media and Communications program, so it uses skills from my previous work and interests that I already had. I have focused my coursework and then my master's thesis research on young people and their use of digital technologies. And it's been really, really cool. I have to say, I'm not like a tech person per se. My skills are not in the area of coding or anything technical. Anytime that I talked about eating disorders, body image, the issues of social media are always forefront in those discussions. So my deep love and interest in young people and their mental health and well-being intersects with technology naturally. So that's where I directed my studies. My master's thesis research was particularly on young people's use of AI and how they perceive that it affects their mental health and well-being. And I conducted focus groups here in Switzerland at international schools. And then last year, the research that was just published that I was very grateful to be able to work on was called Frontiers in Child Digital Safety. And that was a collaboration between the University of Zurich and Harvard, Berkman Klein Center for Youth and Media, and the Technical University of Munich. And that was a 2-year process. We brought together global experts from safety, from technology design, psychology, from various arenas. I mean, from Stanford to Harvard to research universities here in Europe, South America, Africa, global experts on this topic. And we published a report last June.
I actually think we might be getting this wrong. Because if you really listen to this conversation, which is part 1 of 2 of my conversation with Kirsten, it's not just about a title or a stage or even something like Miss America. It's about what happens when someone is shaped inside of pressure, expected to perform, to hold it together, to become something before they've even had the space to fully figure themselves out. And that's what made me start thinking about something bigger. Not just how Kirsten experienced Miss America, but how we're thinking about what's shaping kids right now. Because in part 2, we get into artificial intelligence, social media, and youth mental health. And I'll be honest, it might challenge the way you've been taught to think about all of it. Because what if the constant fear around technology, the idea that it's damaging kids, distracting them, ruining their development, etc., is actually keeping us from seeing something more true, maybe more nuanced? That kids are adapting, that they're more capable than we give them credit for, and that this moment might not just be something to protect them from, but something that's pushing us to rethink how they learn, grow, and develop all together. It might not be the most comfortable conversation. You might disagree, but it's a really important one. So make sure you're following the show, the Check-In with Dylan, so you don't miss part 2. And if you're finding value in these conversations, the best way to support the show is simply share it with someone who you think would like it. These conversations grow because people pass them along, and that's how we keep creating more of them.